The film begins with silence, then sand, then voice. Dreams are messages from the deep. That's not just a line, that's a warning. The year is 10,191. Forget Earth, that's long gone. Now it's all about Arrakis, a desert planet that holds the most valuable substance in the universe. Spice melange. But this spice isn't oil, it's not gold. It's consciousness made physical. It allows interstellar travel, expands human perception, and unlocks prescient abilities. Whoever controls the spice doesn't just control the economy, they control time. Enter House Atreides, sent to rule Arrakis by imperial decree, replacing the brutal House Harkonnen. But this isn't an honor, it's a trap, a political assassination dressed up as duty. The Emperor is threatened by Duke Leto's popularity, so he rigs the game, using the Harkonnens as his hammer. And in the middle of it all is Paul Atreides, the son of Leto and Lady Jessica. He's not just a prince, he's the nexus point. Born of Bene Gesserit breeding programs, trained in logic, war, and ancient rites, he is the unintended fulfillment of a prophecy that was engineered to manipulate, but may end up manifesting truth anyway. This version of Paul, played by Timothée Chalamet, isn't the fearless warrior. Not yet. He's contemplative, haunted, seeing visions of a girl in the desert, of war in his name, of futures he doesn't want but can't ignore. The Bene Gesserit, an ancient sisterhood of whispering influence, have planted religious prophecies on worlds across the galaxy like cultural time bombs. Jessica was never supposed to bear a son, but love interfered with programming. And now, the system trembles. Villeneuve uses silence like a weapon. Every frame of Part 1 is meditative, ritualistic. The arrival on Arrakis, the first spice vision, the test of the Gom Jabbar, all of it is soaked in symbolism and spiritual consequence. The Atreides fall quickly, betrayed from within. The Harkonnens, monstrous, ritualistically violent, backed by Sardaukar shock troops, take back the planet in a wave of blood. Duke Leto dies a martyr. Jessica and Paul escape into the desert, but this isn't just survival, it's initiation. Because out there, in the vast, unforgiving sands, live the Fremen, the indigenous warriors who have adapted to the harshest conditions in the known universe. And they don't worship spice, they become it. As Part 1 closes, Paul isn't safe. He's just begun to walk the golden path. And he starts to realize the future isn't something to inherit, it's something to carry. Now we step into Part 2, and everything changes. Paul, now among the Fremen, doesn't just survive. He transforms, he learns their ways, fights in their arenas, rides the great Shai-Hulud, the sandworms that tunnel through Arrakis like cosmic serpents. These are not monsters, they are guardians of the spice, the soul of the planet itself. But Paul's visions intensify. He sees a jihad, a holy war, spreading across the galaxy in his name. Burning worlds, chanting masses, millions dead, all because of him. And this is the core paradox of Dune. To awaken to destiny means to realize you're not just a man, and you're a force. And every force destroys something in its path. Villeneuve leans heavily into the psychological toll of messianic power. Paul doesn't embrace the prophecy easily. He fears it. But fate and fear are poor negotiators. The Fremen begin to believe, the power accumulates. And when Paul drinks the water of life, the poisonous excretion of a drowned sandworm, he doesn't die, he awakens. Fully, he becomes what the Bene Gesserit fear, the Kwisatz Haderach, the one who can be in many places at once, a being outside of time, a consciousness that collapses the program from within. With his new awareness and Fremen allegiance, Paul leads a sandstorm war against the Harkonnens and the Emperor. The spice fields burn, the power structure fractures. The galaxy watches as the impossible happens. A desert rat, born of broken lineage and twisted prophecy, rises to control the known universe. But here's what makes Villeneuve's vision so powerful. It doesn't glorify Paul. It doesn't paint him as a hero. It warns you, because Paul wins. He topples the system, marries the emperor's daughter, commands the throne, but in the final moments you see it in his eyes. The price. He had to become the Messiah. But the Messiah must also become the tyrant. And that right there is why Dune isn't a story of salvation. It's a story of cycles, warnings, and what happens when belief becomes law. Because Paul wins. He topples the system, marries the emperor's daughter, commands the throne, but in the final moments you see it in his eyes. The price. He had to become the Messiah. But the Messiah must also become the tyrant. And that right there is why Dune isn't a story of salvation. It's a story of cycles, warnings, and what happens when belief becomes law. Spice, the substance that bends reality. At surface level, spice is a hallucinogen that enables space travel by granting prescience to guild navigators, allowing them to fold space without moving, essentially replacing computers and AI after the Butlerian Jihad outlaw thinking machines. But that's not the truth. That's just the cover story. Spice is concentrated consciousness, a physical manifestation of awareness at its most refined state. It doesn't just expand the mind. It forces the confrontation with time, identity, lineage, memory, and fate. And like all real sacred substances on cheek, it tests you. The weak go mad, the unprepared perish. What is the spice, really? It is an entheogen in the most ancient sense, like ayahuasca, soma, or blue lotus, not meant for recreation, but for activation. The Fremen use it in ritual to initiate deeper union with their planet and each other. The Bene Gesserit use it for ancestral memory, tapping into the DNA-encoded memories of female lineage. But when Paul Atreides consumes it, it does something no one expected. It fractures linear time. This is the core hidden mechanic of Dune. When the Kwisatz Haderach consumes spice, he doesn't just see possible futures, he becomes the vibrational convergence point between past, present, and what could be. He is a glitch in the matrix of fate, and the spice doesn't cause this. It reveals it. The spice is the key to the machine, but the machine isn't technology. The machine is perception. The spice alters your alignment to reality itself, like tuning a dial on a radio. Suddenly, you're not receiving one linear signal anymore. You're hearing the full spectrum, the polyphonic hum of all timelines, all possible outcomes. Now think about this. The spice is only found on Arrakis. It is produced from a symbiotic process involving the sandworms, ancient titanic beings who are the planet's immune system. Spice can't be synthesized, can't be duplicated, can't be controlled without submission to the ecosystem. That's the message. Spice is not a resource, it's a sacred relationship, one forged in suffering, balance, death, and rebirth. Arrakis produces spice because it is the crucible of evolution. That's why the Fremen, though seen as primitive, are actually the most advanced beings in the system. They don't extract the spice, they live in communion with it. It's in their breath, their blood, their vision. It becomes their culture, their DNA. That's why their eyes turn blue. The eyes of Ibad, it's not a mutation, it's a spiritual signature. Meanwhile, the Empire, the Harkonnens, and even the Spacing Guild, they all treat the spice like a commodity. And that's the allegory Herbert was pushing. Those who treat consciousness as a commodity will eventually be consumed by it. Those who treat it as sacrament will become something more. Spice, frequency, and the human biocomputer. Let's take this to the metaphysical level. The spice mirrors how certain vibrational frequencies and natural compounds interact with the human neurobiological system in our world. 111 hertz activates deep emotional release and pineal gland resonance. Ayahuasca and psilocybin initiate ego dissolution and multidimensional contact. Frankincense and blue lotus stimulate altered awareness in ceremonial use. Now combine these ancient truths with Dune's spice, and you begin to see what Herbert encoded. Spice equals the cosmic trigger. It is a frequency concentrated substance that makes conscious choice more powerful than deterministic programming. That's why the Spacing Guild needs it. To bend space, yes, but really to bend decision. That's why the Bene Gesserit need it. Not for pleasure, but to access the record hidden in cellular memory. That's why Paul doesn't just become a Messiah. He becomes a living divergence point, a psycho-historical anomaly that resets the direction of all human development. The tragedy of spice. Here's the hard truth. Once Paul awakens, the jihad becomes inevitable because people don't worship truth. They worship symbols. And Paul becomes the ultimate one. The spice, once a tool for enlightenment, becomes the fuel for war, empire, and religious ecstasy. Just like in our own world, this is the cycle Herbert warned us about. Sacred tool discovered, tool becomes secret knowledge. Secret becomes commodity. Commodity becomes weapon. Weapon becomes the end. Paul knows it. That's why he fears it. That's why he never wanted to be a Messiah. But prophecy doesn't ask for permission. And spice, once it opens the doors, doesn't let you walk back through them.